The Brazilian president, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, departs for China to enhance bilateral cooperation ahead of BRICS Group's summit. Also, the UK parliamentarians wrote on Tuesday to the US Attorney General Merrick Garland, requesting the cessation of the extradition process against the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Israeli occupation army soldiers claim to have killed 2 Palestinians during an operation near the occupied West Bank settlement of Elon Moreh near Nablus. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. On Tuesday, the Brazilian president, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, departs to China to pay an official visit to the Asian giant. The head of state acknowledged that it will be a busy trip and ratified his desire to strengthen the political and commercial relationships between both countries. Lula's visit comes as BRIC countries prepare for their 15th summit to be held in South Africa in August, with China and Brazil as 2 of the main economies in the group. A peaceful resolution to the Ukrainian conflict will also be a paramount topic during the bilateral talks. Lula is accompanied by a large delegation of ministers who are also attending the inauguration of former Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff as head of the BRICS Development Bank. And the impeachment proceedings against Ecuador's President Guillermo Lasso for corruption charges move forward as the Assembly's Oversight Commission defines the ex officio evidence for the process. With 5 votes in favor and 4 against, the Commission gave way to the incorporation of 49 ex officio proofs out of a package of 68 requested by the members of the legislative body. Likewise, the Commission left unanswered the letter sent by the President Lasso through his lawyer before the beginning of the session. The resolution took place in Quito 6 days to the deadline established by the Legislative Board to receive the evidence for the prosecution and the defense after the notification to Lasso and to the proponents of the trial. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, the President Guillermo Lasso met with U.S. Democrat Senators Robert Menendez and Timothy Crane at the government palace in Quito. According to a press release from the presidency, an agreement was reached at the meeting to strengthen economic ties and to favor the democracy, security, migration, and further investments. In the high-level meeting with the senators, Lasso ratified his affectionate ties with the U.S. government and assured that he identifies with the principles and values of the U.S. democracy. Lasso currently faces the worst crisis in his almost 2 years in office, and in a little more than a month he will face a political trial for corruption. On Monday, the Oversight Committee of the National Assembly of Ecuador approved to incorporate 49 pieces of evidence to the impeachment process against the Ecuadorian president. We move to other topics. On Tuesday, Venezuelans commemorate in Caracas the 21st anniversary of the popular triumph that defeated the coup d'etat of April 2002 in the country. Over 5 million militants of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, along with citizens from all over the country, are summoned to a series of acts and events that begin on Tuesday and will extend until April the 30th or 13th, when the commemoration will culminate with a great march through the capital. In this context, forums, seminars and conferences will be held to address the events that for 72 hours tried to reverse the course of the Venezuelan revolution, commanded by Hugo Chavez, without success. The first vice president of the political party, Diosdado Cabello, assured that the day of mobilization will exalt the great popular victory of that day. The president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, and the attorney general, Francisco Barbosa, held a conversation on Tuesday about a draft bill aimed at tackling drug trafficking. This bill establishes the mechanisms for the dismantling of organized armed high-impact crime structures. It establishes the sheets of leaders of the organized armed structure of high-impact crime shall be sentenced to effective imprisonment of 6 to 8 years, according to the degree of individual responsibility. Moreover, these criminals will not be entitled to house arrest, parole, 72 hours 24-hour permits, nor redemption or sentences for work or study. The bill also sets a period of 4 years of surveillance and monitoring mechanisms and participation in restorative justice and reintegration programs. Petro and the Attorney General agreed on joint technical working groups and reaffirmed their commitment to the fight against drug trafficking. The executive of the plurinational state of Bolivia has reinstated the dialogue with the leadership of the Confederation of Urban Educator Workers as they are looking for solutions to the conflict that arose 5 weeks ago. Edgar Pari, the Minister of Education, inaugurated the table with the national government's offer to make the application of updated curriculum content more flexible and the increase of 16,000 hours to cover the so-called historical deficit. That is 8,000 for urban teachers and 8,000 for rural teachers. On the other hand, the budgetary issues and the Education Congress will be reviewed by the commission that the government set up with the Bolivian Central Labor Union, which also represents the teachers. On Tuesday, Vietnam's Minister of Foreign Affairs confirmed the upcoming visit of the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. The visit will take place from April 14th to 16th in response to an invitation from Foreign Minister Bui Thanh Xuan. The presence of the head of the U.S. diplomacy had already been announced in Washington last week by the Senator Jeff Merkley, who led a U.S. congressional delegation on a working visit to the Indo-Chinese nation. According to a note from the U.S. State Department, Blinken will arrive in Hanoi to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Comprehensive Partnership and meet with senior Vietnamese officials to discuss its shared vision for the region. The United States has a growing relationship with Vietnam, which includes defense issues, and the two countries are reconciled despite memories of their bitter war from 1955 to 1975. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on our TikTok at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news, updates and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. United Kingdom parliamentarians wrote on Tuesday to the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, requesting the cessation of the extradition process against the founder of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange. The request of the legislators comes on the 4th anniversary of the imprisonment of the 51-year-old Australian journalist in the European nation, and also demands the possibility for the communicator to return home. British representatives of at least 6 parties recalled that Assange disseminated information with evidence related to the crimes against humanity, corruption and human rights abuses committed by Washington in Afghanistan and Iraq. The journalist, pending extradition to the northern country, faces 18 crimes of espionage and computer intrusion and remains since April 11, 2019 in Belmarsh Maximum Security Prison, southeast of London, after Ecuador withdrew his political asylum. Resident doctors in the United Kingdom began a 4-day strike on Tuesday, demanding better pay and working conditions. Healthcare unions stated the protest will return until Saturday and is centered on a pay dispute between the British Medical Association and the government, with the union claiming that resident doctors in England have seen a 26% pay cut in real terms since 2008 because pay rises have been below inflation, currently at 10.1%. The BMA also said that the strikes by junior doctors, qualified physicians, who make up nearly half of the medical workforce, could be stopped if Health Secretary Steve Barclay put a credible pay offer forward. And Northern Ireland braces to receive on Tuesday the President of the United States, Joseph Biden, amid strong protests registered on Monday ahead of his visit. The U.S. President will arrive in the country to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Peace Agreement that ended 30 years of conflict in the region. On Monday, hundreds of Irishmen took to the streets of Londonderry County in rejection of the presence of the head of the White House. The demonstrations prompted Ireland to be put in high alert as police authorities reported attacks against their agents during the protests and urged calm. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is to welcome Biden, who is of Irish descent on his mother's side, to Belfast on Tuesday night at the start of the US President's 4-day visit to the island of Ireland. In Athens, the capital of Greece, bus and trolleybus workers went on strike on Tuesday, demanding additional safety measures for employees and passengers. The strike, set from 8:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. local time, adds to a 24-hour strike last March staged by thousands of public transport workers who are demanding the implementation of additional safety measures, the hiring of additional personnel, and the renewal of the fleet. They are also demanding employers' compliance with collective bargaining agreements. Last week, bus and trolleybus drivers in Athens held another strike with the same demands, and they accused the government of ignoring the union requests. The protests are staged after the deadliest railway accident in Greek history that took place last February, when 57 people died in a head-on collision of two trains. On Tuesday, rescue workers continued their search efforts in the French city of Marseille after Sunday's building collapse. Local prosecutor Dominique Laurence said a probe on the cause of the tragedy is ongoing and that there is real danger regarding the stability of an adjacent building.
On the hypothesis of a gas explosion. We had already talked about it. What we know is that in this building, which has a ground floor and 3 upper floors, only the ground floor and the first floor were equipped with gas. The search efforts are becoming particularly dangerous. The latest information we have from our colleague who is on site is that they are still searching through the rubble by hand, because there is a real danger to the stability of the building at number 19.
The United States and the Philippines began their largest ever military drills, which will include a live fire exercise on a sunken ship in the South China Sea. More than 17,000 soldiers are taking part in the annual event, known as Balikatan or Shoulder to Shoulder in Tagalog, with about 12,000 U.S. troops, more than 5,000 members of the Philippines Armed Forces, as well as representatives from other countries, including Australia. The drills will run up to April 28th and will include live fire exercises as well as boat-sinking rocket assault. The drills come the day after China carried out 3 days of military exercises near Taiwan, launched in response to President Tsai Ing-wen's meeting with U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. And now we move on to other topics. On Tuesday, Russian authorities said that the Kamchatka Peninsula in the far east of the country remains on red alert due to the eruption of the Shivalush volcano. The volcano erupted on Tuesday, expelling a dense column of ash that reached a height of 15 kilometers, causing the worst harsh fall in 60 years. According to Russian specialist Alexei Ozerov, the last time a significant amount of ash fell was in 1964. The emergency department confirms that all roads and educational institutions have been closed and masks have been distributed to residents. The Kamchatka Peninsula, which extends into the Pacific Ocean about 6,600 kilometers east of Moscow, is one of the world's most concentrated area of geothermal activity, with about 30 active volcanoes. And in southern Israel, local authorities reported 2 people missing on Tuesday after heavy rains flooded the southern region of the country. The official report confirmed that heavy rains are flooding southern Israel, particularly affecting valleys in several locations in the country, while 2 civilians remain missing. Heavy rains and strong winds since Monday caused rivers to swell near 2 key north-south highways, while several roads were blocked near the Red Sea resort of Elah. Rescue forces also assured that at least 60 people have been rescued thanks to a radar search. Eilat Mayor Eli Lankre announced on Tuesday that a sports hall will be opened as an additional shelter intended as an overnight stay for vacationers unable to leave the city due to the flooding. TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries using StoreSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Tuesday in Palestine, Israeli occupation army soldiers claimed to have killed 2 Palestinians during an operation near the occupied West Bank settlement of Elam Moreh near Nablus. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant confirmed the murders and stated the troops were allegedly preventing an attack near Elam Moreh, an illegal Jewish settlement in the West Bank. Violence has escalated in the region over the past week as the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan, Jewish Passover, and Christian Easter coincided. So far in 2023, the Israeli occupation violence has claimed the lives of at least 96 Palestinians. Currently, more than 600,000 Israeli settlers in dozens of illegal settlements, which were established after Israel occupied the West Bank and East Jerusalem in 1967. On Monday, a general in Iran's Revolutionary Guard said Israel's membership in the United Nations should be re-evaluated, taking into account its violent incursions.
The most violation of the UN resolution is the Zionist regime. This regime is an outlaw and defiant among more than 200 members of the UN. The Zionists, who are fake and illegally joined the body, have the most violation of resolution passed by various parts of the UN this year. It is a serious demand that the UN decides to make a major decision to sack this fake regime to preserve its own dignity and the dignity of member countries.
On Tuesday in Myanmar, about 100 people were killed after a military air attack against allegedly dissident group, which took place as residents gathered for the inauguration of an administrative office. According to an official spokesperson, forces led by the country's ruling military junta reportedly carried out an airstrike against the group as it was opening one of its offices in the town of Poziji, known to be a bastion of the opposition to the coup carried out 2 years ago. The government spokesperson estimated the number of dead around 50 people. However, non-governmental organizations raised the death toll to close to 100. On February the 1st, 2021, the military overthrew the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi, prompting peaceful protests that security forces suppressed with violence that has since escalated, and that experts from the United Nations and other agencies have called a civil war. Witnesses have stated that Tuesday's attack was one of the worst since the military seized control of the country. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres arrived in Somalia on Tuesday as part of his second official work visit, where he called for massive international support for the Horn of Africa country, which is battling devastating drought and an Islamist insurgency. Guterres described his trip as one of solidarity and stressed that the purpose was to sound the alarm about the need for international support for this nation. Guterres emphasized that nearly 5 million people suffer high levels of acute food insecurity in Somalia and that the UN has launched a $2.6 billion humanitarian aid appeal. However, he acknowledged that it is currently only 15% funded. 5 consecutive failed rainy seasons in parts of Somalia, as well as Kenya and Ethiopia, have led to the worst drought in 4 decades, wiping out livestock and crops and forcing at least 1.7 million people to flee their homes in search for food and water. During his visit, the Secretary General of the United Nations also highlighted that while Somalia barely contributes to the emissions that cause climate change, Somalis continue to be its biggest victims. In this context, he called for massive international support.
And I'm also here to ring the alarm on the need of massive international support. Massive international support because of the humanitarian difficulties the country is facing, massive humanitarian support in relation to the build-up of a security capacity in Somalia, and massive humanitarian support in stabilization and development of the country.
And 2 aid workers with the humanitarian group Catholic Relief Services have been killed in Ethiopia's Amhara region. According to Zemere Zevdie, CRS's country representative in Ethiopia, said in a statement that Chuol Tongif, a security manager, and Amare Kindeya, a driver, were shot and killed in a vehicle as they were returning to the capital Addis Ababa from an assignment. The Amhara region has witnessed huge protests in the last 5 days against government plans to dissolve a regional force that will be integrated into the national army or police. In this sense, politicians and activists have condemned the government, saying disbanding Amhara's special forces will leave the region vulnerable to attacks by neighboring regions, including Tigray. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.